Hello.
We're live.
Hey, cameras!
Yay.
Hey! Hello, everybody. Welcome to MangaPod. We're a weekly podcast in which we'll get together after we've read all or part of a manga, and then we discuss those friendship, love, and lots of spoilers. This week, we are talking Sayanora Zetsubou-Sensei. I always mess up the Zets. Sensei.
Okay.
Chapters 1 through 30. I am Erin, a happily Erin, your host. With me, two of my three lovely co-hosts. We'll have everybody go around and introduce themselves. Dodger should start since she usually goes after me. Dodger is from Dex Bonus. Her Twitch channel is twitch.tv/DexBonus. She just moved over to England, and so the timing is still a little bit off for her. And so that also is a good place to make the announcement that we are officially going to be moving our stream date and time. Starting on January 5th, we will be streaming on Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Wait.
We're working on that.
What was it?
We're working on it, I think.
I thought we nailed it down, and then in my head, I was like 5 p.m. And then as I was saying, I was like, wait, I don't know if that's true.
I feel like it was 5, but I can't remember if it was Pacific time or if it was Central time.
Yeah. I know
there.
it's like midnight in England.
Yeah.
So I think it's like 5 or 6 hour time. So it's Central time.
So 5 p.m. Central time is when, tentatively, check out the MangaPod Twitter.
Check the Twitter out later.
To know what's real. So that's me. That's Digger. Lou.
Hey, my name's Lou, and happy holidays, everybody. I'm looking forward to talking about this manga. Maybe not super positively, but yeah. How's it going?
Okay, hello. It's my turn. I'm Moika. You can find me at Mega Moika on pretty much everything. I'm really interested to see what everybody else thought, which I think we're like-minded on this one.
I think we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're all... Yeah. It's going to be a discussion. I'm very interested. So if you guys have never joined us for a MangaPod before, what we like to do is give a short spoiler-free description of the manga that we read. Moeka will be reading that this week. And then we'll give your spoiler-free recommendations whether we think you should spend time going to read this manga or not. That way, if it sounds like something you're interested in, you can take your leave once we get to spoiler section. Go read it, come back, and watch the VOD of this on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/happily Erin. We ask that nobody in chat post any spoilers for anything until we get to spoiler section, and then once you're in spoiler section, please don't post spoilers for anything past chapter 30. So thank you very much for following the rules. We appreciate it in advance. Thank you. Moika, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm gonna be reading. Nozomu. Oh my god, no. Nozomu? Oh my god. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. Nozomu Itoshiki is depressed. Very depressed. He's certifiably suicidal, but he's also the beloved school teacher of a class of unique students, each charming in her own way. The stalker, the shut-in, the obsessive-compulsive, the girl who comes to class every day with strange bruises, and Kafuka, the most optimistic girl in the world, who knows that every cloud has a silver lining. For all of them, it's a special time when the right teacher can have a lasting positive effect in their lives. But is that teacher Itoshiki, aka Zetsubou-Sensei, who just wants to find the perfect place to die?
Thank you. All right, let's do spoiler-free recommendations. Would anybody like to go?
I'll go first.
I can go first too.
No, this manga. All right, it's not that it's bad. It's just it's super one note, and it like I feel like it would be better as a 4-koma, to be honest, because they just beat the joke to death from chapter to chapter. Yeah. So, yeah, not a fan. I would love to watch it animated though. Like I like the style of the manga, and I feel that because I've never seen the anime adaptation, and I know that Shaft did the anime adaptation, so I can imagine them like really making something special out of like this framework.
Mm,
But I did not enjoy reading this.
yeah.
I was
I
really let down.
I'm gonna go off that and also add that I feel very relieved that I was not the only one that felt that way so far. I was expecting something way different in terms of I was expecting it to be funnier and it had funny moments, but like Lou said, it was so same thing every single chapter. And so it was really hard to get into it, even though I did find myself liking the characters and their quirks, and I thought that those were really well done and pretty funny at the start. They just weren't utilized. They needed to be utilized a little bit more minimally, and so that made it hard. Like once there were a bunch of characters, it just all got muddled because everything was shoved together. So I didn't have a super fun time reading this. I don't I want to watch it animated. I'll say that. I don't want to spoil anything, but it was difficult for me to read this. And based off of what everyone has said about the anime, I'm gonna say go watch the anime instead.
So yeah, so basically I watched the anime when I was younger and just fell in love with like the animation of it all. It definitely works better animated, so just go watch the anime instead. Don't bother reading the manga. I I can't recommend it. It would like this is a super niche manga that I have to know that the person is looking for this specific type of manga in
Mm-hmm.
order to recommend it.
Yeah, and that's nice that we have someone who's seen the anime here, too. I would like to say that. It's nice to know that. Cool. So there's our spoiler-free description and our spoiler-free recommendations. If it sounds like something you do not want to be spoiled for, now's the time to take your leave. Otherwise, you can hang out with us, and we're going to be discussing spoilers up to chapter 30. So countdown: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Zetsubou's God, I guess. I don't know. But
Nobody
he's
is
gonna
really
kill
God
himself.
in this
No.
one. Actually, there were a few people who were God. Hikomori girl is apparently a God.
Oh, the other teacher lady that was excellent at abusing people, and everyone turned into a
Yeah.
masochist and wanted to be
Oh
stepped
my
on
gosh,
by her.
that was
She's probably a god.
she ascended.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do the question we always start with, which is what were you expecting before going into this manga? And that includes if you had already watched the anime like Moeka had. Going into the manga, what were your expectations? We kind of already touched on it, but I would like to hear your more in-depth stuff.
Okay. I want to go first on this. First,
Yeah, go for it.
point number one, I thought it would be a lot funnier than it was. Like, you look at the whole framework of the students, the quirky students with the teacher. I think of stuff like Azumanga. I think of stuff like Pani Poni Dash, of Nichijou. Like I think of this as a framework for comedy manga and comedy anime.
Mm-hmm.
And like Zetsubou-Sensei has a pretty well, it's a name. It doesn't like fade into obscurity. Like it stands out amongst its peers when it comes to this type of story. And so my expectations going into this were, oh no, this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to this. I've been wanting to read this forever. And I was really let down. But to go another step, I really didn't know what to expect out of Zetsubou-Sensei. And reading the synopsis, oh, he's depressed. He's very depressed. That doesn't really come across as, or at least for me, it didn't really come across very well in the manga. And it kind of made the whole like, wow, I'm gonna go kill myself and jump off a building or whatever and hang myself. It cheapened the jokes a little bit. Like
Mhm.
I would have like preferred for him to be like, no, let him be spiraling, but having to go to work and like be forced to endure this comedy of all these other people. I feel like it like a stronger contrast would have given a little bit more weight to what he was doing, which would have made the jokes land a little bit better for me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
basically it in terms of like expectations. Like I knew the girls were all going to be cute and funny, which they were, but you know, smaller, you know, less is more, I guess.
Yeah.
Like we didn't read a lot. Like we read the first 3 volumes, but like I feel like maybe I would have been better just reading 1 or 2 volumes of this because I like I did all the reading like in one go, so
Mhm.
Hmm.
maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I did the same. And actually, as I was reading it, I couldn't help calling back to the last episode where you talked about Way of the House Husband. And we talked about how what was so impressive with that manga was that despite it being each chapter is this kind of standalone with the joke, it somehow was not boring and did not feel like you were getting hit over the head with the same joke all the time, which isn't standard for slice of life comedy manga. And so just to have this one to come right after we read that one is a great contrast to what we were talking about. So going into it, we can touch on that more. I just wanted to get it out while it was in my brain out there. But expectations, I didn't realize. For some reason, I thought it was going to be a lot more cutesy and not as dark humor. I had no idea it was going to be as dark of a humor, or that it was like a little bit higher rating with like the not high rating, but like with the fan service with the underwear girl and stuff. I didn't know that that was going to be in there. I was completely caught off guard. I was like, "Oh, okay, it's not all cutesy like Nichigo like things like that." Which is what I was expecting. So I went into it with the frame of mind that it was gonna be Azumanga Dial, like all the ones that Lou said. And then suddenly there were panty shots and all this like suing you for sexual harassment and step on me sensei and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. I came into this thinking it was gonna be way different than it was, but okay. Um so yeah, I was expecting something different with that, and I was also expecting to love it a lot more than I did. So.
Yeah. So for me, having seen the anime, I mean, granted, it was when I was younger. I was expecting to love the manga more, but it was really like I don't know if it was harder to read just because of like I mean, it's definitely a product of its time. So I feel like I don't know if it's just like visually I'm used to seeing a certain quality that this manga like nowadays I feel like it's too simplistic. And so I don't know, it makes it really hard to like get through it because of it for me.
Yeah.
And so it was just I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh
I'm a little sad cuz yeah, I wanted to love it a lot more than I ended up not loving it. At least for the chapters we've read.
no. Yeah. That's like I was actually talking to David. Like he came down this morning or this afternoon while I was reading it, and I just went done, and he goes, "Oh, okay," and I was like, "I do not know how I feel about this manga." And then he would not let me talk about it because he's like, "You gotta save it, save the feels." It's like, and then that's
Mhm.
something too that sometimes when you go into reading something that is really popular, because you hear, like Lou said, you hear that name, you hear Zetsubou-Sensei all over, like you see his picture is all over the place. Like,
Mhm.
and you search anime, anything, and it's like, oh, Zetsubou-Sensei is gonna pop up there. And so to go into a manga that is, did the manga come first or the anime?
Manga came
The
first.
manga.
So to go into a manga that a really popular anime is based off of and to come out really, really disliking it, there's just always something that feels off to me about myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, did I just like completely read this wrong or what's going on. So coming into this podcast and having you two feel the same way, I feel a little bit more validated in my opinion. But like if I didn't, it wouldn't have mattered really if it was like different, but it's just nice to know that I wasn't going crazy while I was reading it. There was stuff that just stood out as weird.
So for a bit more context, the manga came out in 2005.
Okay.
So we're talking about a manga that came out about 15 years ago. And stylistically, what Moeka said in terms of it having a more, I guess, stripped down aesthetic, that definitely holds weight.
Yeah, I feel like art-wise, it's very abstract at times. It's very like the rendering of characters is very much down to like just very specific shapes.
Yeah, and
so
oh, sorry.
No, I was just that was basically it.
Yeah, and
which is like I don't think it's bad, but it's just I don't know. The anime really like screwed me up.
Yeah, and I think it's like hard when you have such a big group of characters that look very traditional, to make them look different, like the hairstyles when all you have is black and white. I don't know, like, because their haircuts and stuff, since it's so minimalistic, the way their hair look is really like the defining thing that is setting them apart from one another. And there's a lot of times where even that looks the same. You're just like, this is so, is this girl, or is it the stalker girl, or is it normal girl, or is it class representative girl who's not actually the class representative? It's just trying to, since it's so minimalistic. Let's talk about lovely Zetsubou-Sensei. Let's talk about our teacher boy to start off our characters.
I'm just gonna start off with when I was younger, I loved him. He was like one of my anime husbandos. I was just like, I don't know, just I loved him. It's just so cute looking.
Can I something?
So handsome.
He's so handsome. I do like. I mean, his is like the only art like design that stands out, but it's also because he's like one of the only guys in the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know who really stands out? The fucking invisible kid that's like going bald.
Yeah, he's very distinct.
Like the boys in this manga stand out.
Yeah.
Like design wise, the girls all look the fucking same.
Look the same.
Like I had to look for specific details in their haircut. Like, did they have bangs? Was their hair parted down the middle? Was it a bit shorter, and did they have pins in their hair? Like very specific things to like really tell who they were, because I guess apart from the super positive one, I think her name was Fuda. A lot of the dialogue I feel was kind of interchangeable for some of the characters. The only girl that visually stood out was the panty shot girl, and that's because like, you know, she was the quote unquote foreigner person.
She had the blonde hair. I thought it was really funny, and going back to things I wasn't expecting, that it kind of turned into a semi-harem manga with all the like students that were suddenly like, oh, sensei. Just here and there, not a traditional harem, but I still found it kind of funny how many students, and he is so aloof with that sort of thing that he's just like, what does this mean? I don't understand. And then the stalker chapter, that made me laugh really hard. About how there was just a long ass line of stalkers just following each other. That was probably the one that got the biggest laugh out of me, was that chapter. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's kind of the same thing, that his jokes were the same thing every time. And so it's really hard. It's hard for me to even think about, like, when was there a variation on it? Because he would do the same joke, and then it would be followed by, what if I had died? And so, Yeah, I think if it had like voice, like if it had the voice, it would be a little bit different. But like with everything else in the manga, it just became so one note over and over.
Mhm.
It's not like there's a whole lot of
Yeah.
character development that can happen in a manga like this either. So it's hard to
Yeah.
speak to. Did he grow as a character? And it's like, well, no, he's still making those same comments. And there's times where he even
Yeah.
just disappears because he's like, bye, I don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here. See, I'm gonna go dress up in normal clothes for once.
Moeka, I have a question about the anime.
Hmm.
So, um, does it do multiple of these stories per episode? Like, is it 2 or 3 stories per episode, or does it
Um,
drag it out throughout the entire episode?
it like from what I remember, it like mixed a few of them. So it was like I feel like the anime like covered a lot of the chapters that we read, but the way it formatted it was that it would chop them up and like pair them differently. So instead of it being
Oh.
like chapters 1, 2, 3 like animated sequentially, it was like, oh, let's do 1, 4, 3 or something like that. Which
Yeah.
I think that helped a lot because there are definitely chapters where it feels like, oh, this feels like it could have happened right after this one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
I feel like that kind of helps it out a little. And
Yep.
so yeah, I just man, I feel the products of their time, as I was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What
Because I
about?
definitely oh,
Oh.
sorry, I was gonna say definitely with the length of this series, it like if I wasn't doing it for a podcast, I definitely feel like I would find myself skipping chapters
Mm-hmm.
just because it's just like I don't know, like some of them are just so like very much hit or miss.
Yeah. And they're so hit or miss, and they're so oh my gosh, what is the word? Exposition heavy. There's so much dialogue in every single
Mhm.
chapter, which I think might have been another downfall because for a few chapters, like a flow of it where you're having a few chapters with that and some without. That's fine, but this it was every single chapter for the most part. It was all right, here's all these jokes, here's all these jokes, here's all these jokes. And it was just so much like to get the joke to land, it had to have all of that, but it just became so repetitive.
Mhm.
And there was times
Mhm.
I was just flicking through some things and I'd be like, all right, I gotta go back. But it was just so much like dialogue that I wasn't expecting from a comedy manga at all.
Mhm.
So it just made, yeah, I think that made it drag too.
I feel like yeah, that and it's just man, it's just so they're like the dude has a formula and he like will not move from it,
Mm-mm.
which I think just doesn't help the manga.
No, and it even made like sometimes the chapters were only 11 pages, and it did not feel like they were only 11 pages long. Um, yeah. What about you, Lou? Do you have any thoughts on Zetsubou-Sensei? On him, the
Eh,
character?
Um, I mean, like I said before, I was kind of hoping that he would be more in his feels, like spiraling depressed, instead of like,
Mm.
being, I guess for the most part, coming off as pretty upbeat, and then suddenly, okay, I'm gonna go kill myself now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I would have gotten more out of him if he would have been like the really, like, obviously depressed character where the students
Mhm.
wouldn't acknowledge or really recognize his depression. Like, I feel that would have landed better.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
again, like, I feel like maybe this is something that would be conveyed better animated as opposed to in manga form, because I guess there are just certain things that you can't express in manga as well. Like, for example, changes in posture or micro expressions are a little bit more difficult to nail in manga than in anime.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point because it starts out people being shocked that he is doing things like that, but even just halfway through our reading, which is the first 30 of 300 and some chapters, the characters were like, all right, why don't you do it then? Like, it was just one of those, like, they became totally at ease with it, to the fact they're like, oh, he's not gonna do it, so we can just be like, okay, no loss, like, just stuff like that. And so, yeah, like, it just, he wasn't different enough from the rest of the characters to stand out as the main character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which of the students do you guys want to talk about first?
Super positive girl.
Super positive girl.
I think she was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed whenever she was on a page, because she did the whole thing where she took the trait of the Genki girl and like really exaggerated it in a way that like really landed. Um, the issue that I have with the characters overall is that they all read very similarly in terms of like their dialogue, but that could have also been an issue with whoever did the translation. So there are a few things that like kind of weigh into that, but definitely from her role in the story, I think she was a lot of fun. Yeah, and probably one of the better designs in terms of like standing out amongst the group.
Yeah. I ended up falling in love with the illegal immigrant girl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I was just
She's great.
like, I was like, oh,
She's so
stereotype here, but she's so pure, and I love her, and I want to protect her, and so do like some of the other characters in the series, which I was just like, oh
my
I want to
gosh.
hear about her situation.
Yes, the parts were like her whole introductory chapter, where people were like, wait, who are you? And she'd just look at them and then go, oh, here's my money. I want to protect you. So cute. And she remains that pure through everything that we've read. It was so cute.
I mean, like, I'm perfectly okay with her committing identity theft.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Especially how she went about it. Like, she paid for her spot. It was really funny.
So pure.
Got rid of what's his face.
Which, yeah, I guess it's just, I wish that we got to know more about the characters without the like, haha, oh, that thing happened, now I'm gonna go kill myself. Like, it would have been nice not to have that happen so many times.
Yeah, like I'm wondering if it's just because it's the first part of it, and if as we get into more chapters, instead of like a bunch more characters being introduced, we get more of the background of the characters we have. Because it might have been something where the mangaka at the beginning was like, okay, I need to just keep producing these funny chapters that are a little bit more fluff and not much depth, so that readers will really like it. And then if it takes off, I can go in and expand their histories a little bit more. And so I don't know if that's the case, but I think it'd be cool if we got more depth, like you were saying, about their families and their backgrounds and all of that, because it seemed like we were going to when he was told to do some home visits, but we still just we just got introduced to more girls and not their parents or anything like that. Like, every character exists to be a gag right now.
Like, I think a good example of what you're talking about is the time that we've gotten with Zetsubou's family. So those chapters where he goes back home and we're interacting with his family, I feel like that's kind of a glimpse into what this manga could be. And I really enjoyed those chapters, like the whole like marriage through like making eye contact. That whole chapter, or that whole sequence, was really funny, and it played up the strengths of all the characters. So like, I feel like if the manga turns into more of that, now that all the characters have been established, I think it'll be better in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked the chapter where they went back to his family. I agree. I thought that was a strong section for it. I was
Yeah,
like,
I liked how everybody was like, "Wait, you're not dressed like super traditionally. What's going on?"
yeah. He's like not in the big city, and then he's like, all right, now I'm gonna strip on down. Um, should I? One of my favorite girls was Cell Phone Girl. I don't know why, but her
Yeah.
gag, especially at the beginning, made me laugh so hard. The part where, just the way that she's texting and she's so aggro, like you wouldn't
Yeah,
expect her.
everybody
Yeah,
was
she's a
thinking
super
that she was
cyberbully.
Yeah, because everybody was like thinking, oh, she's just like shy. She can't talk to people. She's probably really nice. And then it, like, no, she's so mean.
So mean, and he like eventually moves her out of range, which is so fun. Like the way that they go about combating her meanness is to make her not have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And when she,
Which
oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, I think, so I feel like this series has a lot of flaws, and I think that's what got people attached is like those little quirks and charms of certain characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why kind of why I just want to keep reading, because I like the characters, or like the most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so just it's the format that I'm just like, I think Lou was right. I think if it had been like a 4 coma, I think it would have been better in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. What was, oh, the other gag with her that I liked was the whole disgusting chapter, like that the waiter, uh Butler put on a whole gag, like whole forest scare to scare every single individual person. So we got to see what freaked out everybody, and hers was, what was hers? Hers was something really stupid, but it had to do with her phone, and I just remember laughing at it. Thought it was great. Can't remember what it was, but I thought it was
I don't
great.
remember, because the thing is that it was so many different things,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many characters that, like, that whole section, it didn't really stand out to me because we didn't get a lot of time with each disgusting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I
there
think
there would
was
be multiple that would happen per panel, basically.
No, definitely. Yeah, I think again, it's just there's like an overload of dialogue and things that happen in certain chapters that make them really forgettable after you're done reading them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like super unfortunate because the characters are fun to like experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like, I remember chuckling at this, or like this stand out to me, but I can't for the life of me remember the specifics or which character it exactly pertained to, because it's all such just a mush of everything flowing from one thing to the next. There's never a pause in between jokes or anything.
Yes.
Not
many series can pull off the rapid fire jokes like that very well, because giving the audience time to breathe is important in comedy.
And the shows and manga and stuff that do are very intelligent, because it's like, it's not about the rapid fire, it's about when do you let the audience breathe, like you're saying. It's like knowing those correct spots is really difficult, is harder than the rapid fire jokes itself, I think.
Like for shows that do rapid fire humor, I can't think of any manga specifically that do it exceedingly well, but my favorite anime that does the rapid fire jokes is Magical Circle Guru Guru. So Mahujin Guru Guru. It's really, really good. And that is a manga adaptation, so I'm wondering if the manga is able to pull it off the same way the anime does.
There's some really good example of rapid fire humor. It's not a series, but in the Kuroko manga, not so much in the anime. The anime really didn't embrace it. But the rapid fire humor in the manga is amazing. Like they'll have just a random half chapters in between a match or something like that, like the big intense moments. They'll have a chapter or a chapter and a half of just hilarious things that happen where the characters are bouncing off one another and it's doing the like rapid fire jokes and then it ends in the perfect place. It's all like the entire humor like joke is just perfect from beginning to end because it doesn't stretch on too long and it doesn't end too short, and then it leads into like a more serious moment in the story. And so that is something I can send links to people if they want to read it, but Kuroko did that very, very well in the manga. And even when they tried to do it in the anime, they still didn't hit the pacing right for it. But Kuroko's humor was really stand out in the manga that not as many people got to see because the anime was way more popular than the manga for sure.
I feel because earlier I was saying that this manga is definitely a product of its time, and I think the humor, I think that's why the humor for me is so hit and miss for certain things, is because there's so many little things in Japanese culture that just don't translate into a Western culture, and so I think there's lots of that in this manga, and so that's why again, it's really hard to recommend to people because I know that like at the end they always include like a thing where they have to explain certain words and like concepts because it's just they're not familiar things in the West, and it's just oh man, it's just it's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's always the notes at the end. I was thinking that too, that it's just not translating well. If you don't know the actors or the comedic duo or this history or where this is from, and they're making a reference or a pun or something on that, it just doesn't translate as well. And that's not like the manga's fault or the reader's fault. It's just what it is when it comes to translating something that has jokes like that.
Yeah, and then there's like lots of, I mean, this manga originally came out in 2005, so it definitely takes like current events from that time period and interjects it into it. And so it's just like in 2005 I was a youngling, like I wasn't online, so getting news from Japan back then was really difficult unless it was like big business news and it affected a lot of like people business wise, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was graduating high school that year, and I was not a very internet heavy user. I was out doing things,
which is like
but
crazy to think about.
I definitely would not have been keen on whatever references because the internet at the time was a very different place.
It's true.
Yeah,
internet stuff in 2005 is not like as information dense as it is now, or as accessible as it is now.
Yeah, which I wonder if, I mean, like, because it's the Zetsubou-Sensei is definitely it's dark comedy, so I wonder if that's why so many people back then liked it, because it was like, I mean, comedy back then was very much like super edgy. Like, I think of 4chan, and so I'm just like, I don't know. I think that's why I originally picked it up, was because it was like, oh, haha, it's not like cutesy rom-com. It's like this dude wants to like kill himself, which is like, it's a weird, I don't know. Thinking back to it now, I'm like, I don't think now that would be why I would pick up a manga now. I'm just like, I guess I'm like more conscious of the things that I read and like want to read.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, do I really want a super depressing like commentary of its time?
Yeah.
Right now, no.
But I mean,
No.
Zetsubou-Sensei is kind of a himbo, so I feel like you'd still read it anyways.
Yeah, that is true. He is very handsome, even to this day.
When did the anime come out? Was it 2005 too?
2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a little before Bakemonogatari.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah. Hmm.
Which is like, I don't know. It's crazy to think about like the art at the beginning or for the chapters that we've read because I'm not like it's not something that I'd be super impressed with. Like I get that it's abstract and it has its purpose, but I'm just like thinking again, I just compare it to the anime where I'm like I remember the mangaka, they got him to do that like end slate like illustrations and those were like they were so good. If you are familiar with the anime, they had also really good opening called Runba, and it was just like it's just so distinct and catchy. It's like it's such a weird thing to think back to. I'm getting nostalgic.
Aw, the nostalgia.
It's so yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just so I guess it's one of those like don't meet your heroes
Yeah.
kind of moment. It's like okay, this big thing that you liked. Maybe don't go back to the manga. Just enjoy what you have.
Yeah. Oh. No. Are there any of the other girls you want to touch on? We haven't talked about Girl Who Grabs Tails. Or
Not much there.
there's not a whole
Let's be
Yeah.
lot
honest.
for substance. There's a Hikikomori girl, but
Mhm.
there's also not a whole lot there. I did enjoy Normal Girls chapter, and like there was a few moments of hers later on where like everybody else got to. I don't remember if it was for the trip or if they were going to see Sensei, but everyone got there in these really flashy ways, and she was just on the train.
But she took the normal
She
train
took
instead of the express line.
Yeah, she took the normal
Yeah.
train, so she got there and had to like turn around. Oh, there was. This isn't a girl, but there's the guy who can open anything. That whole chapter.
Mhm.
Do you guys remember that guy?
I
Peter, something like that. That was an
I
interesting
don't remember
chapter.
their name. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm like
No, you're
I'm
fine.
thinking back to the Dojin girl, the girl who makes dojins. I
Oh
just thought
yeah.
about that chapter and how it was like it was like the teacher talking to her, and then they're like talking about like, oh yeah, I do this comic thing, and then they're talking about it, and he goes to a Comic-Con, and it's a like boys love dojin circle type thing. And
Mhm.
so his stuff is very normal. So obviously it doesn't do well at a boys love dojinshi circle.
Yes.
And so he's just like, "Oh man, my stuff's is not doing well. What's going on?" And it's like super funny because it's just like, because I have friends who do tabling at Artist Alley, and so it's just like it's one of those like social commentaries about like manga conventions and the life of an artist and how like once you find your niche, you're kind of like stuck in it almost because
Mhm.
that's at that point it's like people associate you with that, and it's if it's good, I mean that's what they're expecting you to continue doing.
Mhm.
So it was just like super funny, and how brutal people are if it's like if you're outside of that circle and you're trying to sell your stuff there still. It's just I don't
Mhm.
like I think that those moments where I understand what the chapter's talking about, it's like it's brilliant. But if you don't know what he's like commenting on, it fails so badly. Or I don't want
Yeah.
to say fail, but it doesn't click,
Yeah.
which is super unfortunate.
Mhm. Do you guys want to talk about art more, like more in depth? I know we've already kind of touched on it, but do you guys have any other thoughts about it?
I mean, the designs are unique, from a lot of what we read. So I guess that's kind of refreshing. I like the fashion choice for the different characters when they're outside of the school setting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really it. Like there isn't a whole lot to say that we haven't covered. The girls all look very similar apart from like certain things in their hair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at least the girls in a class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's basically it. I really don't have a lot to say in regards to the art, which is
Yeah, it's
surprising
this.
because I like the design of Zetsubou so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, his design's really good. Cause I know they like kind of showed some of his like family. Cause the guys are they're very similar to him. There's again, it's the hairstyle's what sets them apart.
Yeah.
And it's just yeah, it's just very simple abstract art. Everything's like boiled down to like very like basic shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's just unfortunate that it's bogged down by like a bunch of dialogue or like an overload. Well, and that's the thing too, like background wise, certain panels are just barren. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing there. It's just the character like on a white page or panel.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, it might have flourished a lot more if it'd been like a stronger narrative and a stronger, more concise jokes and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like I can appreciate that it's abstract, but I really wish it had done some different story choice. The manga had done different story choices that would fit and like benefit the art a little bit more, which is not having so many characters that look so similar to each other. And I think it's hard by having it be all that like geometrical shapes and stuff, it is hard to differentiate characters from one another if they because there's only so many hairstyles you can give somebody. Like you're not allowing yourself different facial structures really. And so I have to give props to like the attempt with that. It's just hard when you have so many different characters that all look the same for a reader to try and figure that out. But yeah, and I agree. Like, there's just not a whole lot going on in the background sometimes because there's always so much dialogue and all of that. So, yeah, I like the art, like the style of it. I just wish that the story had benefited it a lot more. So, yeah, do you guys have anything else you want to touch on? Otherwise, we can do final thoughts and ratings.
I think I'm ready to go into that.
Yeah,
So,
no, me too.
all right. So, if you guys don't mind, I would like to give my final thoughts and ratings first.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I've been kind of jumping the gun on a lot of our like sections in terms of like expectations and spoiler free recommendations because I was really looking forward to reading this a lot. Like when the idea came up when we were scheduling it, like I got genuinely excited and I'm like, all right, cool. This is going to be an awesome way to wrap up the year and segue and basically the last manga pod of the decade, right?
Oh,
Big deal,
yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
And I am so disappointed. Uh,
Yeah.
like it's funny in places, but it's not as good as it could have been. I
Yeah.
really wish that I would have taken like if I could go back in time and pick a different manga to read for this manga pod, I definitely would have picked a different thing to read for this manga pod.
Yeah.
It's just it failed on a lot of different fronts,
Yeah.
and really like I don't recommend that anyone read this. Like there's no real reason to read this when like the anime has a stellar reputation and there are plenty of other gag manga that are able to be gag manga more effectively and that provide more enjoyment across wider demographics like how the house husband manga which is the parallel
Mhm.
that Aaron made earlier. So overall, if I have to give this manga a score, it's gonna be like a 5. And the only reason why it's that high is because some of the jokes did land for me. Like the
Mhm.
stalker chapter was really funny. Uh, the um, the marriage thing was really funny for me. But that's about it, really. You know. Oh, and the design of Zetsubou-Sensei, and like I like the designs for the girls, but they all look too similar.
Mm-hmm.
You get me? Like it's not that they were bad designs, is that there wasn't enough variety. So yeah, a 5 out of 10. I'm really disappointed. Um, but it is what it is. I still want to see the anime, and I plan on doing so at some point in the near future. And that's
Mhm.
it.
Also, sorry,
That's all
you
right.
you brought up that a lot of the girls like look the same, which for me is just kind of like maybe it's like because it I mean there he does commentate like about certain events during that time period that this was happening or he was making it, I mean. And I like almost want to say that the girls looking so similar is kind of like commentary on like a lot of anime characters looking the same stylistically because I'm that's kind
Oh.
of like I I feel back then especially it was like characters have to look this specific way, and if they look this way they have to like they have to fall within a certain stereotype for people to really love them, almost that kind of commentary, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so part of there's like little things like that where I'm like, "Oh, that's so smart." But I feel like with this series there's a cuz I don't want to like cuz part of me is like I having seen the anime when I was younger. Again, I want to say I was really young when I watched it, so I'm sure I've forgotten certain things, but there's definitely like a time commitment to the series that you need in order to really enjoy it. And so it's just like there's so many little things where it's like, "Oh, that's so smart." But I can't. Like, I don't know, I just can't. Again, I cannot recommend this manga. It's
Aw.
just oh, it's
Yeah.
so sad because there's like brilliant little moments in it. Which I guess to my rating, now that I've rambled on about that again, I it's just so hard to be like read the manga instead of just watching it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give it a 5 because yeah, certain chapters definitely like I got it and it was just brilliant in my opinion. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But there's so much wrong and time wise it's such a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so sad.
I
It's so
agree.
sad.
I agree with both of you. I was really looking forward to it, and I was just like trudging through it, not enjoying it.
Yeah.
There'd be a random joke that did fit, but it's just there's like maybe a memorable thing. I don't know. It was just not an enjoyable read for me. I don't recommend it. I don't know what to say, like a 5 or lower for sure. I just don't. I can't recommend it. It doesn't hinder me from wanting to go watch the anime. Like I still want to watch the anime, so it didn't dampen my excitement to do that, but it definitely makes me be like I'm never going to think about this manga again until like somebody mentions the anime. But other than that, I'm just like
Mhm.
I just don't just wasn't the funnest manga that we've done for sure. So, that's my feel. So, you guys have anything else left to add? Are you good?
I'm good.
So that
No,
wraps
I think
up our discussion. Sorry, Moeka, I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
no.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, okay,
No,
good.
no.
Okay, good. That wraps up our discussion of Sayanora Zetsubou-Sensei chapters 1 through 30. I am going to read the description for the manga that we are reading next time, which will be again on January 5th. We will tweet the correct time for when we will be going live. It's on a Sunday. So I will read the description for the next one. In a world full of magic, Asta, an orphan who's overly loud and energetic, possesses none whatsoever. Despite this, his dream of becoming a blank bestowed upon the strongest blank in the Clover Kingdom. Possessing the same aspiration, Asta's childhood friend and rival Yuno has been blessed with the ability to control powerful wind blank, even with the overwhelming gap between them, hoping to somehow awaken his blank and catch up to Yuno. Asta trains his body relentlessly every day. In the blank, once a person turns 15 years old, it is time for them to receive their blank, an item allowing its wielder to use their blank to full capacity. At the ceremony, Yuno obtains a blank with a legendary blank, indicating the exceptional strength of its wielder, while Asta pointlessly waits for his. Feeling dejected yet unwilling to give up, Asta sees Yuno caught by a blank who's trying to steal blank. Despite being completely overpowered by Yuno's captor, Asta will, to keep fighting, rewards him with his very own blank, one of an unheard of blank. That was really long.
Blank.
Blank,
Yeah,
blank.
Blank. Lots of
it's
blanks.
like 2 very hefty paragraphs.
It
with a
was.
Mhm.
I was just like, what?
Like,
It won't
if you were to
end.
watch the show of this, it's like the entire first episode, and I feel like it took that long to read because it's a beefy summary.
It's just describing the first episode.
Yes, that's exactly what it does.
I'm just going to go ahead and shout it out. We are reading Black Clover, volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 25. We're going to kick off the year with some easily ingestible shonen manga. So that is what we will be reading on January 5th. Let's go around and shout out our stuff really quick. I am Erin of Happily Erin. I have a YouTube channel, which is Happily Erin. All the previous manga pods are up and over there. Otherwise, it's pretty inactive, but you can always check out my previous anime, first impressions, reviews, things like that. Mental health awareness. I'm currently working on a book. You can find it at whenthelastdragondied.com. Information about it, including the cover image. If you want to tweet at me, I have a Twitter, Happily Erin, and an Instagram. Come chat with me. Happily Erin.
Yeah.
And as for our missing co-host, Dodger, she is known as Dex Bonus on Twitch, twitch.tv/Dex Bonus. She does all sorts of fun streams, puzzle games, just all sorts of IRL chatty chat. She's amazing and really sweet. Go send her some love and tell her that we miss her and can't wait to have her back. She's Dex Bonus all across all the stuff.
Yeah, darn you, UK taking her from
Yeah.
us.
It's okay, we'll get her back.
Yeah, we'll get her back.
She'll be back.
Can't escape MangaPod.
Never.
You always find your way back to it.
We've got our claws in her.
My name's Lou, and you can find me on Twitter at LuTalksAnime. And yeah, that's it. That's the only thing I'm gonna shout out from now on. Until like one day, like I get struck by inspiration and I feel like making a thing. So
All
yeah,
right.
that's it. And I will at some point try to start streaming more. So I feel like that's something that I enjoy doing. And yeah, so I'm gonna try and figure that out, and I'll probably have something to report on that next time we MangaPod on January 5th.
Okay, cool. Hello, I'm Malika. I do voice acting and streaming, and I just do a variety of everything because I can't sit still. I gotta do something. And so you can find me over at Megamoika on pretty much all social media, Twitch, YouTube. You can also go to mangapod.carrd.co/#hosts, and all our information will be there, including like Aaron's book. It's a link for you to click there. It's super easy. Duger's Coffee Co. and Cat Gang website. Lou, when you get struck by inspiration, we'll update it to put your stuff there too.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. We
See,
love
this is
it.
why you're like our social media god.
She is our social media
You're
god.
still a social media god.
Yeah, I'm still doing.
I love it. You're so sweet.
She's multi-classing.
All right, that that. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us while we chatted tonight. Again, we will be back on January 5th talking Black Clover volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 25. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait.
Wait.
We have a MangaPod Twitter. Twitter.com/MangaPod.
Oh, yeah.
Go follow it for updates and all sorts of that stuff. Once again, we'll update it with our new time slot. So, okay.
Yeah,
now.
it's literally at Mega MangaPod at MangaPod.
Yes.
Mega MangaPod Moika. Did it.
.com.
.com.
.com at all the dots.
Yes.
Wait, that's our chat, not like Twitch chat.
I was
Okay,
like,
there
why
we
is
go.
she posting it there?
Okay, my
Burn.
bad.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Perfect.